Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Friday afternoon. And next week, little preview since no Sunday this week. So we'll get it out of the way. TGIF. Hey, George, everyone. There we go. Got them in the correct order. Good afternoon, Patrick. Afternoon, people hiding in the background. Probably going to be a lighter viewership today. Let's just get right into it. By the way, look at the S&P Global, the numbers coming out, everything back in expansion, including manufacturing, which was a little surprising, but still holding up. I mean, again, unless the PCE numbers come in really dovish, they've got to do another 25-point hike. Another day, another 50% off average volume. Well, we'll take a look at that. Thank you for tuning in, feedback, and thank you for that feedback. If you keep it going, we're going to establish a feedback loop. Rig count actually expanding a bit. And Cook should be speaking in like now. Let's take a look at next week. Monday is pretty light. Dallas Fed Manufacturing, Chicago Fed Natural Activity Index. Tuesday, consumer word, consumer confidence, more Richmond. So you were getting the regional Fed numbers and the Dallas services. But overall, I mean, there's some of these numbers can move it a little on this light week with no Fed speak because Fed goes in quiet period. After Cook speaks, I don't think there's anybody else before Fed quiet period. Wednesday, we have durable goods. And then, of course, your crude numbers. Thursday, on initial jobless claims, continuing jobless claims, and you get your GDP numbers. This is the advanced numbers for Q1. So this is the first release of first quarter numbers. All right? And remember, then they're revised a couple times. But that's sort of important. And then you get the PCE component of the Q1 PCE prices, but that's not as important as the core PCE on Friday. So core PCE on Friday, and then we get the consumer sentiment final numbers. Remember, we had the preliminary numbers last week. We get the final numbers next Friday. Friday's biggie. Friday's big. It's huge. You can see there's a pretty strong rotation into healthcare. Consumer cyclical, strong rotation in PG after earnings today, pretty strong. Looking at the sectors, healthcare, consumer cyclical, and consumer defensive. I'd say it was just a defensive day, although you got consumer cyclical in there, which is not really defensive, but healthcare and consumer defensive are defensive. Fed watch, close to 90% now. So this is finally getting baked in. We're back to full rate hike and then a pause at that rate hike through September with 2 cuts going in the end of the year. So based off everything today, a hikey hike. And remember, that is not next Wednesday. It is the following Wednesday. Fear and greed. Still solidly in greed mode. Let's see who else is here. Happy Friday, Danny. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, business person. Good evening, Anissa. When's the rate hike? Again, it's not next Wednesday. It's the following Wednesday. So what is that date? Hold on one second. I'll give you the exact date. It's the 3rd. The 3rd of May at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. Next week is a doozy of a week for earnings. So next week you want to get a lot of good sleep this weekend. Because next week, we start off with, but I like looking at Coca-Cola, I love to trade Coca-Cola long term. We got Coke. What else do we have? Oh, there's First Republic. Whirlpool, which I did talk about the other day on the live stream. We got Verizon on Tuesday, UPS, Halliburton, GM, McDonald's, GE, 3M, PepsiCo, Spotify, Raytheon. Look at Tuesday morning. There's a lineup for you. Tuesday, you don't want to be snoozing. Microsoft, Alphabet, Enphase, Visa, Chipotle. Texas Instruments, Juniper Networks. Tuesday is not a day to take off. Wednesday, you got Boeing, Humana, Hilton, ADP Tech, General Dynamics, Boston Scientific. After close, you got Meta, Roku. Remember, if you've been on Facebook or / Meta, the settlement claims opened up today, so you can submit a claim for them. By the way, you got Roku, Teladoc, Kathy Wood, with her $2,000 price target for 2027. For Tesla, 5 trillion over 5 trillion market cap valuation. Thursday, American Airlines, Caterpillar, MasterCard. Oh, Visa was Tuesday. I'm like, what? There's MasterCard. Get me some plastic shoes, some Crocs. Amazon after close, Intel, Snap, Cloudflare. And then Friday, a big day for oil, ExxonMobil, Chevron, and then also Colgate, Palmolive. And that's the PCE day. So there's a lot that can move the markets next week. And then the following week, I know we have Apple and Google, or Alphabet, sorry. So that's where we sit. Intel hits the daily 200. I talked about if it did break down, watch for that 200 area and the prior breakout area. Earnings next week. And there's no bottoming formation yet, but cycles are at the bottom on the daily, still rolling over at the weekly. So this is where I'd need a stronger bottoming pattern before getting aggressive on Intel, and I'd rather have it drop back down here. Market is holding up well. It is. Well, we had the pin. I was watching for this 4150. Right now, we're trading 4153. And I was watching 13,100 for the NASDAQ. We're trading 13,080 roughly. Let's take a look at gold. Gold, unless there's a weird settlement, it did trigger. It's we still got a little time left, but there could be a weird settlement. I was watching the settlement because you can always initiate a position like Sunday night or / Monday morning. You know, and if a trade gets missed, I like to wait for official settlement on something like gold because there can be some really weird settlements. And it was tested based off settlement prices. Is there a place that adds up EPS to determine a trailing EPS for the S&P? I think FactSet and Multiple both do it, I think. Hey, boring week? What do you mean boring week? Coco, are you just trying to get yourself fired again? What else do we have today? Well, the S&P, it's almost over. S&P might be setting up a super aggressive %B buy on it would have to break above Friday's high and then close above it. Why is it super aggressive even though it's with the rotation zone? Because daily and weekly cycles are starting to roll over. And this is the first red week in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's not that red. So based off everything, we should see a multi-week down move based off the cycles. NASDAQ, again, coming back down to the harmonic cluster and then bouncing. The old bouncy bounce. Could be setting up, these cycles are getting closer to the bottom, but again, could be setting up with a super aggressive %B buy. So I will be watching Monday's highs for breaks above them. This is when a high becomes very important. Also, potential %B buy in the Dow. Unless we get really weird settlements, all those %Bs will look to be. But again, they are aggressive because weekly cycles can still be rolling over. But we could get a little mini, like theoretically, you could get a couple pop up here and make a double top pattern still. Should I short if triggered? What, gold? Well, that's up to you. it is a short pattern. But some people, if you're bullish on gold longer term, would use these levels for a pullback and just, okay, you know what, or use it as a trailing stop. Look, let's say you were long from, remember, it's still long from the double bottom if you just kept riding it higher. All right, I'm out. Come back down here, look to get back in. You know, there's many ways to trade these patterns. You don't have to short it. It all depends on you, your viewpoints. I'm expecting a corrective wave back down into the weekly rotation zone, but it is an aggressive short. We don't give out trading advice. We give out education on this channel. Again, I'm not your financial advisor. I cannot structure your account for you. I don't know your risk tolerance. We do that purposely, not to avoid any. I show patterns all the time because I don't know how you're going to trade it. You know, and I don't know. I mean, it's very different if somebody says, oh, I'll put on this aggressive short, you know, I'll take $1,000 risk and I have $1 million account, for somebody who says, my account's down to $1,000 and I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk it all on this short trade. I mean, I don't want somebody to do that. Russell, very neutral. So I'm still watching the overall breakout or breakdown. But if we roll over next week, I'm focusing on 1784. VIX, remember the VIX 1 day starts on Monday because the overall VIX, because it's 30-day options or more, is still in dead zone. DAX still holding up on an outside day. Notes, little pullback after the percent beat buy and a break from the highs, but it's pretty much neutral to the entry area if it was on the highs. There's nothing going on. We'll probably get more volatility in this going into next week. Dollar index still trying to rotate down. My big thing is if we break above this high area, the 101.80, because now the rotation zone will be out of the way. Or if we do break down, I'm watching for a bottoming pattern between the 50 and the 62% harmonic. So see, you could be asking me, well, should I short the dollar if it breaks down? Well, it depends on, again, your risk reward, because look, the target area is not much lower for me. So it would have to be a super aggressive, like intraday, potentially 1 day short. That might not be suitable for most people. Crude, cycles at the bottom, loving this. Loving this going into next week because now we have holding against the 50. With cycles at the bottom, nearly oversold and setting up for a percent beat buy. Loving that. Loving it. Doesn't mean it has to trigger, but there is a potential setup. Natty gas, nothing. Gold, I'm waiting for the official settlement, but if it does close around here, 1993, it would trigger this horribly sloppy head and shoulders. Silver, if you're looking at here, silver, this would be shoulder, head, shoulder. Let me get some of this out of the way. Flat shoulder, nice head, a little rounded shoulder. If you're using the flat line concept, this will not trigger. I can tell you that. And hasn't even confirmed yet, technically. But if you're a silver player, let's say, see, this could be used also. This could be used not necessarily for a short play, but for a pullback play. Because that would take it into the silver weekly rotation zone. And it hasn't even triggered yet. What else? Dollar looks like it's running out of momentum to the downside to me. Seems like for Q1 companies, keep earnings in check with cost cuts and layoffs. which only goes so far. Guessing we'll see some real economic impact in Q3. I think you might see some real economic impact in Q2. So, dollar index inverse cup and handle. Well, thank you for putting in the time frame, Coco. Inverse cup and handle. Yeah, I mean, if it breaks down below these lows, if it breaks down below 100, you could see a pretty quick move down to about 99. But I'm watching that pullback because this has got waning momentum. We've got weekly cycles at the bottom. And I hate going long aggressively with weekly cycles at the top in anything. I hate going short anything aggressively with weekly cycles at the bottom, especially when it held up at the low again. I think the dollar is going to catch a lot of people off guard. That's just my personal opinion. Again, yen still holding up after the trigger. So watching for a continued follow through next week. The euro technically triggered on the 4-hour and the daily, this little double bottom pattern, which playing out would put some pressure on the dollar. Pound still holding the rotation zone. Still no trigger of the double top. This could also turn into a really lopsided head and shoulder. Bitcoin finally breaking down, trading against key support, but daily cycles at the bottom, weekly cycles trying to roll over. So we might see, even after a bounce, we might see a new multi-week down move, especially if we break below 26,600. Would not be surprised to see early next week a bounce somewhere around here and then a possible rollover play, which could be setting up something like a big weekly head and shoulder. Yeah, I'll take a look at SMH. Tesla did not trigger on the weekly basis, only the daily basis. So, but I still think it's going lower, even if it pops back up and tries to fill this gap. It's going to be a rollover play. It's going to be a rollover play. SMH. Feel like SMH broke down below support at 250. GS over 200 SMA. Was that two different things? Gold. This did not trigger the double top just yet. So I'm going to keep watching this. Yes, it broke below 250. It's the lowest close since the middle of March, but still holding the 50 EMA and did not trigger the double top pattern. So I'm still watching for that to trigger. NVIDIA, by the way, you don't have that double top. I forgot to take that off. It's now just a horizontal channel. But you get the close below 264, could get interesting to the downside. The rotation zone's flattening out. And remember, we're still overextended from the weekly rotation zone. You want a Goldman Sachs? Goldman Sachs is essentially, remember, I treat the 200 as an area and we're against the key breakdown zone. So, and we're getting potential divergence with cycles getting to the top. So from my perspective, I'd be watching to see how Goldman reacts with any rollover before I would get aggressive. And by the way, this is a valid potential double top pattern. But it's a fair way off from triggering. Jim Cramer said buy Pan W. Well, I mean, it fulfilled the 62.5 close rule with that 87.5. That looks like it's got weakening. Palo Alto, what I would need, I'm just showing you what I would need. I'd need a real break back below about 188. And that would still be somewhat aggressive, but that's what would at least get me below this breakout area that was retested. I'd rather see another reaction down, a little pop up, and then one more rollover play to really crush this thing. And the earnings aren't till the end of May. So we could still get a little bounce and then a more substantial rollover play. But yes, if you're inverse Kramer, then that's definitely a potential short. All right. What else? I think that's about it. We'll just finish up. Apple still has the potential double top in play. Was there anything else that I forgot about? Oh, I want to just check out Coke going into earnings over major overbought at a prior top area. Coke earnings on Monday, you overbought on the daily, overbought on the weekly, and against a major resistance area. I'd be moving up a stop aggressively on this. But that's where we sit. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful weekend. And thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this on replay, thank you for tuning in and watching it on replay. And I will see everybody back on Monday morning for a super busy trading week next week. So get your rest. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll talk to everyone later. Bye for now.